But now the question is Jay-Z involved in crazier things? And people are pointing their attention towards 50 Cent, wanting him to do a Jay-Z diet.
What does it take to destroy a king? In the digital age, it's not an army, a coup, or a rival kingdom. It's an accusation. It's a single spark of information, true or not, that can ignite a wildfire of public opinion, burning down legacies in a matter of hours. In an era of cancel culture where social media acts as judge, jury, and executioner, no one is safe. In late 2024, that firestorm descended upon one of the most powerful figures in modern culture. The name was Sean Carter, Jay-Z. The accusation was monstrous, a career-ending claim that struck at the heart of his identity as a husband, father, and global icon. For a moment, it seemed like the empire, meticulously built over decades on a foundation of lyrical genius and business acumen, was about to face its final reckoning. And fanning the flames with a gasoline can in one hand and a smartphone in the other was his longtime rival, 50 Cent. The story you think you know of horrifying ritual footage, a shocking sentence, and a feud reaching its explosive climax was just the opening act. It was a carefully crafted illusion, a narrative built for maximum outrage and engagement. Because this isn't a story about Jay-Z's downfall, this is the story of his defense, a story of how, when faced with career annihilation, a billionaire didn't just build a wall, he launched a war. It's the anatomy of a takedown, a masterclass in crisis management that rewrote the playbook for public figures under siege. And by the time the dust settled, the real victim wasn't a reputation, but the very people who tried to tear it down. We're going to unravel how a case that could have ended a legacy was systematically dismantled, piece by piece, until nothing was left but the truth. It began on December 8, 2024. An amended civil complaint is filed in New York and the internet breaks. A Jane Doe plaintiff alleges that she was sexually molested at the age of 13 by Jay-Z following the MTV Video Music Awards. The year was 2000. In the post-Taught Me Too era, an accusation of this magnitude is a kill shot. It doesn't matter if you're a titan of industry, a cultural icon, or a globally beloved artist. The charge alone is often the verdict in the court of public opinion. The lawsuit was filed under New York's Gender-Motivated Violence Protection Act, a law which offered a temporary one-year window for older, time-barred claims to finally be heard. It was a legal Hail Mary, and it landed directly on one of the most famous men in the world, creating a perfect storm of scandal. Jay-Z's response was immediate and ferocious. There was no corporate sanitized, lawyer-vetted PR statement. Instead, a message posted through Roc Nation's official channels felt raw, personal, and like it came from the man himself. It called the accusations heinous, frivolous, and a blatant blackmail attempt. The statement was a declaration of intent. It read, "I will fight this vicious attack on me and my family in a court of law, not in the court of public opinion." He wasn't going to hide. He wasn't going to settle. He was going to fight. But while the legal teams prepared for battle, the public narrative was already being hijacked. Enter Curtis Jackson, 50 Cent. For 50, this was a golden opportunity, the culmination of a rivalry that had been simmering for over 2 decades. This wasn't just about rap, it was personal, and it was business. The beef stretched all the way back to 1999 and 50's infamous track, How to Rob, where he imagined sticking up the industry's biggest stars, including Jay-Z. Jay, at the height of his power, fired back on a track of his own, dismissing 50 as a gnat. Over the years, the tension never faded. It flared up when 50 sided with Nas during his legendary beef with Jay-Z. It resurfaced in business, most notably around the Super Bowl halftime show produced by Jay-Z's Roc Nation. 50 claimed Jay tried to block him from performing and that it was Eminem who had to issue an ultimatum. "I can't do the show if I can't bring 50. So when Jay-Z was at his most vulnerable, 50 Cent, a master of social media warfare, saw his moment. He unleashed a relentless barrage of posts, memes, and jokes. He shared a shockingly realistic deepfake video of Jay-Z being arrested. He mocked Jay-Z for taking his family to the Lion King premiere, quipping, "Jay said they said I rapped a kid. Everybody get dressed. We're going to see Mufasa." Each post was a calculated jab, designed to keep the scandal trending, to pour salt in the wound and to position himself as the truth-teller in a saga of celebrity corruption. The public, ravenous for drama, ate it up. The question of a potential 50 Cent-produced documentary about Jay-Z, a follow-up to his Diddy exposé, became a feverish topic of speculation. When 50 liked an Instagram comment asking if Jay-Z was next, the internet took it as confirmation. The stage was set for a public crucifixion. But behind the scenes, away from the noise of Instagram and Twitter, the first cracks in the plaintiff's story were already beginning to show. A compelling story needs to be consistent. A legal case, which has the power to destroy a life, needs to be airtight. Jane Doe's was neither, as Jay-Z's legal team, led by the formidable Alex Spiro, a lawyer known for representing high-profile clients like Elon Musk and Megan Thee Stallion, began to dig. The narrative started to fall apart like a poorly constructed house of cards. They weren't just defending, they were investigating. Clue number 1, the phone call that never happened. The plaintiff claimed that after escaping the alleged assault, she frantically called her father from a gas station, and he drove for hours in the middle of the night to come rescue her. It's a powerful, cinematic detail, the kind a jury would remember. There was just one problem. It wasn't true. When investigators spoke to her father, he had no memory of such a traumatic event. He stated unequivocally that if his daughter had called him in that state of distress, after an incident involving one of the world's biggest stars, it's something he would never, ever forget. The emotional core of her escape story had just evaporated. Clue number 2, the phantom after-party. Jane Doe described the after-party taking place at a private residence. However, extensive records, photographs, and witness accounts from that night in 2000 showed the official high-profile after-parties were held at two popular New York clubs, Twirl and Lotus. The entire entertainment media apparatus covered those events. There was simply no evidence of the private home event she described. Her timeline and location were fundamentally misaligned with the documented reality of that night. Clue number 3, the ghost of Good Charlotte. As a small detail to add a touch of credibility to her story, the plaintiff claimed she had a conversation with Benji Madden of the band Good Charlotte at the party. It was a specific, verifiable claim, and it was verifiably false. Representatives for Good Charlotte quickly confirmed that on the night of the VMAs in 2000, the band was in the Midwest on tour. They weren't even on the same coast, let alone at a party in New York. The accuser herself, in later interviews, had to concede that her memory had made some mistakes, blaming the passage of 2 decades and the disorienting effects of trauma. But for a legal case, especially one of this magnitude, mistakes like these are fatal. Each inconsistency was another hole in an already sinking ship. The end came swiftly and with stunning finality. On February 14th, 2025, Valentine's Day, her lawyers filed a notice of voluntary dismissal with prejudice. In legal terms, that's the kill switch. With prejudice means the case is over, permanently. It cannot be refiled, ever. Crucially, no money exchanged hands. There was no quiet settlement to make the problem go away. The plaintiff walked away with nothing. Her team released a statement citing a fear of retaliation, but the damage to her credibility was already done. For Jay-Z, it was a monumental victory. But it wasn't the end, it was the beginning of the counteroffensive. Most public figures cleared of such a damaging accusation would have breathed a sigh of relief, released a thankful statement, and tried to move on. Jay-Z is not most public figures. He didn't just want to win, he wanted to make an example out of those who came after him. He claimed from the beginning this was never about justice. It was an extortion attempt, and now he was going to prove it in court. The strategy was a legal blitzkrieg fought on multiple fronts. The main assault was a lawsuit filed in California against the plaintiff's lawyer, Tony Busby. The charge? Extortion, defamation, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Jay-Z's argument was built around 2 demand letters Busby had sent before the lawsuit went public. These letters, according to Jay-Z's team, were a classic shakedown. Pay a massive settlement, or we go public and destroy your reputation. Jay-Z's suit argued this was textbook extortion, a malicious attempt to leverage the threat of public shame for financial gain. He also sued for defamation, citing 6 specific statements Busby made to the media that implied Jay-Z's guilt without evidence. The lawsuit sought over $20 million in damages for lost business opportunities for Roc Nation and punitive damages to punish Busby for his alleged evil conspiracy driven by greed. This was more than a lawsuit. It was a message to every lawyer who might think of targeting him in the future. You come at the king, you best not miss. Simultaneously, a second lawsuit was filed in Alabama, where Jane Doe was from, targeting both her and Busby. Jay-Z's team was turning the hunters into the hunted, forcing them to spend money and resources defending themselves across the country. The centerpiece of Jay-Z's case was a bombshell piece of evidence, a purported recorded conversation where Jane Doe allegedly admitted that the lawyer, Busby, had pushed her to include Jay-Z in the lawsuit because his name meant a bigger potential payday. She allegedly stated that Jay-Z had nothing to do with any assault. If authentic and admissible in court, this was the smoking gun. However, the legal system has its own complexities. Busby fired back with something called an anti-SLAPP motion in California. SLAPP stands for Strategic Lawsuit Against Public Participation. It's a law particularly strong in California, designed to protect free speech and get weak or retaliatory lawsuits thrown out quickly. Busby argued his demand letters were a standard part of pre-litigation and that his media statements were legally protected opinions, not defamatory facts. In a stunning 65-page ruling on July 1, 2025, a Los Angeles judge granted Busby's anti-SLAPP motion and tossed Jay-Z's case. The judge ruled that what Busby did, while perhaps unsavory, did not legally qualify as extortion in a civil context. It was, in the eyes of the law, simply a settlement negotiation with a non-disclosure clause. On the defamation claim, the judge found there wasn't enough proof of actual malice, the incredibly high bar required when a public figure sues for defamation, where you have to prove the person knew what they were saying was false. The judge himself admitted he wasn't entirely satisfied with the outcome, noting in his ruling that if the bombshell recording of Jane Doe could have been authenticated and used without questions about how it was obtained, the outcome might have been very different. But as it stood, First Amendment protections won the day. Busby celebrated the victory and threatened to make Jay-Z pay his legal fees. But Jay-Z's team immediately filed an appeal. The war wasn't over, it had just moved to a higher court. While this multi-million-dollar legal warfare was raging, a fascinating thing was happening to Jay-Z's empire. Absolutely nothing. His estimated net worth, hovering around $2.5 billion, remained untouched. No major partners dropped him. The NFL, despite a vocal segment of the public calling for them to cut ties, stood by Roc Nation's lucrative deal to produce the Super Bowl halftime show. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell stated the league makes decisions based on facts, and with the civil suit dismissed and no criminal charges ever filed, the partnership continued. Sales of his Armand de Brignac champagne and Douce cognac never faltered. His investment firm, Marcy Venture Partners, which has stakes in companies from Oatly to Savage X Fenty, continued its operations seamlessly. The entire episode served as a stunning testament to the resilience of his empire. Jay-Z had built a fortress so diversified and powerful that a scandal that would have shattered anyone else barely left a scratch. And what of 50 Cent's much-hyped documentary, The Reckoning, the one that was supposed to be the final nail in the coffin? The series premiered on Netflix. The internet held its breath, and Jay-Z wasn't mentioned, not once. Despite all the social media trolling, the winks, the nods, and the liked comments, when it came time to present actual legally defensible evidence, there was none. In an interview, 50 Cent explained it away, saying the series was focused on victims, and Jay ain't in it because there ain't nothing there to put in. It was a quiet, anticlimactic admission. Trolling on Instagram is free. Making unsubstantiated claims in a high-profile Netflix documentary, however, opens you up to the same kind of legal firestorm Jay-Z had just unleashed on Tony Busby. 50 Cent, for all his bravado, was smart enough not to step on that landmine. His online campaign was pure opportunism, a way to generate buzz and stay relevant by attaching his name to a bigger star's crisis. It was a sideshow, not the main event. The real story was the quiet, unshakable stability of the Carter family. While tabloids speculated about marriage trouble, Beyoncé released her critically and commercially adored album, Cowboy Carter, one of the biggest of the year. The family presented a united front at the Mufasa premiere. Jay-Z's own legal filings spoke of the mental anguish his wife and children, Blue Ivy, Rumi, and Sir, endured. Their survival as a unit became the ultimate rebuttal to the public chaos. So let's circle back to the original narrative that set the internet on fire. The horrifying footage, the impending sentence. It was all a mirage. Jay-Z was never sentenced. He was never criminally charged. The civil suit against him collapsed under the weight of its own inconsistencies and was dismissed permanently. What we witnessed was not the fall of a king, but a masterclass in 21st century crisis management. A new playbook for a new era. Step 1. Categorical denial. No ambiguity, no room for interpretation. Step 2. Aggressive counter-offensive. Don't just defend, attack the credibility and motives of the accusers. Step 3. Control the narrative. Use official channels for limited, powerful statements, and avoid engaging with the media frenzy. Step 4. Demonstrate unbreakable stability. Let your business and family life proceed as a show of force, projecting an image of being untouchable. Jay-Z's reputation, his business, and his family all emerged intact, perhaps even stronger. He weathered a perfect storm of accusation, public outrage, and rival-fueled speculation, and he did it by turning the legal system into a weapon of his own. The story of Jay-Z and the lawsuit of 2024 isn't about guilt or innocence. It's about power. It's about who has the resources to fight back and how, in a war of narratives, the one with the best strategy and the deepest pockets ultimately gets to write the history. The facts don't lie, and in the end, the facts were all that mattered.